Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Just Speak, English podcast. I'm Corey, and I'm so glad you're tuning in with us today. You know, we often have these internal conversations, these little voices in our heads that judge our every move, especially when we're learning or using a new skill.
Oh, that voice, the internal critic. It can be so loud sometimes, can it?
It really can. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. The topic is why your English is better than you think. I'm here with my good friend Ethan. Ethan, thanks for joining me to unpack this.
Hey, Corey, it's great to be here. This is a topic I'm really passionate about because I think it applies to so much more than just language. It's about self-perception, confidence, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. We're going to explore that gap between our perceived ability and our actual ability. For anyone listening who's ever felt that wave of self-doubt, who's ever thought, am I good enough? This episode is for you. And hey, if these kinds of real, honest conversations are your thing, make sure you hit that subscribe or follow button wherever you're listening. That way, you won't miss what's coming next.
Yeah, definitely do that. Because we all need a reminder sometimes that we're doing better than our inner critic tells us we are.
So well said. So, Ethan, let's start right there. That feeling of inadequacy, where do you think it comes from? Why are we so hard on ourselves?
I think a huge part of it is what I call the fluency illusion. We have this idea in our heads, probably from movies or perfectly edited TV shows, of what a fluent speaker sounds like.
Right, someone who speaks in perfect, complete sentences, no hesitation, no ums or ahs, a flawless accent.
Exactly, a walking, talking grammar book. But here's the secret. Nobody, and I mean no native speaker, actually talks like that.
That is such a critical point. I'm a native speaker, you're a native speaker, and if people recorded our casual conversations,
Right? We'd be correcting ourselves, starting a sentence over, searching for a word. What's that thing called? The clicky thing.
the remote, yes, that happens to me daily. And that's normal. That is natural communication. But for someone learning a language, they hear that one little stumble in their own speech, and what do they think?
I failed. My English is terrible. They don't give themselves the same grace they would give a native speaker. They're comparing their real, messy human speech to an impossible robotic standard.
It's a completely unfair comparison. I remember reading about the concept of imposter syndrome in a professional context. People who are highly accomplished, doctors, lawyers, artists, who live in constant fear of being found out as a fraud.
Oh, 100%. I felt that so strongly when I started my first job out of college. I was hired as a junior graphic designer. I had the degree, I had a portfolio I was proud of, but I was terrified
What were you afraid of?
that someone would ask me to do something, use some specific Photoshop tool or a design principle I wasn't 100% solid on, and the whole charade would be up. They'd all point and say, see, he's not a real designer.
Even though you had all this evidence to the contrary, you were literally hired to do the job.
The evidence didn't matter to my inner critic. It focused on the 1% I didn't know, not the 99% I did. And it's the exact same pattern with language. Learners will have a 10-minute conversation, and if they mispronounce one word or forget one grammar rule, what do they remember?
The mistake. Not the 9 minutes and 55 seconds of successful communication.
Precisely. They don't remember the part where they made someone laugh or successfully explained a complex idea or understood a nuanced point. They zoom in on the single perceived failure. It's a cognitive distortion. We're wired to notice threats and dangers, and for a learner, a mistake can feel like a social danger.
That's a powerful way to put it. A social danger. The fear of judgment, of looking foolish.
And that fear is a powerful inhibitor. It makes you hesitant, it makes you second-guess yourself. And then that hesitation can cause more mistakes, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You think, my English is bad. So you get nervous, your nervousness makes you stumble, and then you say, see, I told you my English was bad.
It's a vicious cycle. So, the first step is really just acknowledging that the ideal you're chasing, this fluency illusion, it doesn't exist. Not for you, not for me, not for anyone.
It's a myth. The reality of communication is messy, imperfect, and beautiful. It's about connection, not perfection. Once you start to internalize that, everything changes. You start to see your stumbles not as failures, but as part of the process.
Like a musician practicing a new piece. They're going to hit wrong notes. That's not failure, it's learning.
Exactly. You wouldn't expect them to play it perfectly the first time. Why do we expect that of ourselves when we speak? The goal isn't a flawless performance. The goal is to make music, to connect with the audience. In conversation, the goal is to connect with the other person.
I love that. So, we've busted the myth of the fluency illusion, but that leads to another problem. If progress isn't this big, flashy, I am now fluent moment, how do we even know we're getting better? It can feel like you're stuck in the same place for months.
Ah, yes, the plateau, or what I like to call invisible progress. That's a whole other mind game we play with ourselves.
Okay, invisible progress. I like that term. It perfectly describes that feeling of putting in the work but not seeing the results. It's like going to the gym for 2 weeks and then getting frustrated because you don't look like a bodybuilder yet.
Ha, precisely. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint, but our brains want that instant gratification. You don't get a ding and a level up notification in real life.
Wouldn't that be nice, though? Congratulations, you have unlocked the present perfect tense.
That would be amazing. But because progress is so gradual, so incremental, we don't notice it on a day-to-day basis. It's like watching a child grow. You don't see them getting taller every day, but then you see a photo from 6 months ago and you're like, whoa, you've shot up.
That is the perfect analogy. So, how do we create those photo moments for our English skills? How do we see how far we've come?
You have to be intentional about it. You have to create your own evidence because your memory is an unreliable narrator. It will always focus on today's struggle, not yesterday's victory.
So, what's a practical way to do that?
For me, it was completely by accident. I was cleaning out my computer's downloads folder, a terrifying task, I know.
A digital archaeological dig.
It really was. And I found an audio file from about 2 years prior. It was a recording of me doing a practice run for a presentation. I clicked on it out of curiosity, and honestly, Corey, I cringed.
Oh no, was it that bad?
It wasn't bad in the sense that it was incomprehensible, but my confidence was so low. I was speaking so timidly, using so many filler words, and my explanations were kind of convoluted. I was listening to this person who sounded so unsure of himself.
And at the time you recorded it, you probably thought it was the best you could do.
Exactly. But the shocking part was realizing how much I had improved without even noticing. The me of today is so much more direct, more confident, more articulate. But if you'd asked me the day before I found that file, hey, Ethan, do you feel like your presentation skills have improved? I would have said, maybe, a little. I still get nervous.
Because you didn't have that stark before and after comparison. You were just living the gradual improvement.
Right. That old recording was my photo from 6 months ago. It was undeniable proof of progress. It showed me that all those little moments of pushing through my fear, of giving presentations even when I was scared, had added up to something significant.
So the advice for our listeners is to find a way to document their current level. Record yourself speaking, maybe.
Absolutely. Record yourself answering a simple question like, what did you do this weekend? Or what's your favorite movie and why? Don't judge it, don't analyze it, just save it. Label it with the date and put it away.
And then in 6 months or a year, listen back to it.
You will be shocked, I guarantee it. You'll hear a difference in your vocabulary, your sentence structure, your speed, or your confidence. And that's incredibly motivating. It's tangible proof that your hard work is paying off, even on the days it doesn't feel like it.
That's a fantastic concrete strategy. It's not about criticizing your past self, but about honoring the journey.
Another thing is to keep a win journal. It sounds a bit cheesy, maybe?
No, I like it. Tell me more.
At the end of the day, or the end of the week, just write down one small communication success. It doesn't have to be a huge debate. It could be, I understood the lyrics to a new song, or I asked for directions and the person understood me on the first try.
I see. You're training your brain to look for the positives. We talked earlier about how we naturally zoom in on the one mistake in a 10-minute conversation. This actively counteracts that.
It completely rewires your focus. Over time, you build up this catalog of successes. So on a bad day, when your inner critic is loud, you can literally open this book and see pages and pages of evidence that says, hey, you're doing okay, you're making progress. It's your personal arsenal against self-doubt.
This is so powerful because it shifts the metric of success. It's not about some far-off, unattainable goal of fluency. It's about what you accomplished today.
And that brings us to a really important point. We need to completely redefine what success in communication even means.
Okay, let's dive into that because I think it's the heart of the issue. What is the traditional and probably flawed definition of good English that most people carry around?
It's the textbook definition. It's about accuracy above all else. Did you use the correct verb tense? Was your preposition right? Did you use a sophisticated vocabulary word? It's a very academic, sterile view of language.
It's treating a conversation like a test. Every sentence is graded.
Right. And if you get a B-, you feel like a failure. But that's not what communication is for. Language is a tool. It's a bridge between two minds. The ultimate goal is not to build the most grammatically perfect bridge, but to get your message across to the other side.
So the new definition of success should be what? Connection?
Connection, clarity, being understood. That's it. Was your message received? Did the other person get what you were trying to say? If the answer is yes, that's a 100% success. A+, gold star.
I love that framing. It takes all the pressure off. It doesn't matter if you said, I go to the store yesterday instead of I went. The person knows exactly what you mean. The message was delivered.
Exactly. The message was delivered. Think about it. Which is a more successful communication? Someone who uses perfect grammar to say something boring and uninspired, or someone who uses slightly broken English to tell a hilarious story that makes you cry with laughter?
It's the storyteller every single time because they achieved the real purpose of communication, to evoke an emotion, to share an experience, to connect.
I had this experience years ago when I was traveling in Southeast Asia. I was trying to share a story with a local guesthouse owner. My vocabulary for this specific topic was zero. I was using gestures, drawing pictures on a napkin, probably using the wrong words all over the place. It was a linguistic mess.
I can picture it.
But I was so passionate about telling this story, and he was so patient and engaged in trying to understand it. And at the end, his eyes lit up. He got it, and we both just started laughing. We shared this amazing moment of human connection. In that moment, did I care that my past participle was probably wrong?
Not in the slightest. You succeeded in the most important way.
That was a huge turning point for me in how I view language. It's not about the elegance of the tool, it's about what you build with it. Your English isn't a performance to be judged, it's a vehicle to share who you are with the world.
That's so true. And people are much more forgiving and patient than we think. When someone is speaking to me in English as a second language, my brain isn't sitting there with a red pen marking their errors.
What are you doing instead?
I'm just listening to their story. I'm focused on the content. I'm thinking, wow, this person is making a huge effort to communicate with me in my language. That's amazing. I'm filled with respect, not judgment.
And I think 99% of people feel that way. We get so caught up in our own heads, we project our own insecurities onto our listeners. We assume they're judging us as harshly as we're judging ourselves.
When in reality, they're probably just happy to be talking to you. They're interested in your ideas, your opinions, your experiences. The grammar is just the delivery system. And if it's a little bumpy, that's okay. The package still arrived.
The package still arrived. I'm stealing that. It's perfect. So the mindset shift is huge. From am I saying this perfectly to am I being understood?
And a big part of being understood isn't even about the words, is it? It's about your tone, your body language, your facial expressions.
Oh, hugely. Communication is maybe 10% words and 90% everything else. Your passion, your enthusiasm, your sincerity, those things are a universal language. They shine through even if your grammar isn't perfect. A smile is understood in every language. A confident posture is understood in every language.
So, if you focus on the message and deliver it with genuine energy, you're already most of the way there.
You're 90% of the way there. The rest is just details. And those details will improve over time naturally as you continue to use the language. But if you wait for the details to be perfect before you try to connect, you'll be waiting forever.
Okay, so this is all fantastic in theory. We've busted the fluency myth, we've talked about tracking invisible progress, and we've redefined success as connection. Now, let's get super practical. For the person listening right now who is nodding along but still feels that knot of anxiety in their stomach, what are some actionable things they can do to start changing that mindset today?
Great question. It's time to move from theory to action. There are a few mental tricks and habits that can make a world of difference.
All right, Ethan, let's arm our listeners with some tools. Give me the number one most impactful mindset shift someone can make right now.
Stop apologizing.
Ooh, that's a big one. Explain that.
How many conversations have you heard that start with, sorry for my bad English, or excuse my accent?
Countless times. It's almost a reflex for many learners.
It is, but it's a damaging one. When you start with an apology, you are immediately framing yourself as deficient. You're telling the other person, don't expect much from me, and you're reminding yourself of your own insecurity. It sets a negative tone for the entire interaction.
It's like you're preemptively admitting defeat.
Exactly. You would never go into a job interview and say, hi, sorry I'm not very qualified for this role. You go in and you project confidence. Do the same with your English. Just start talking. Assume competence. Let your abilities speak for themselves. You have nothing to apologize for. You're a multilingual person, which is incredible.
I love that. Banish the apology. What's next on the list?
Focus on what you can, not on what you can't. I call this a can-do inventory. The self-critical brain is obsessed with gaps. I don't know the future perfect continuous tense. I can't debate philosophy. My vocabulary for economics is limited.
It's a list of deficiencies.
A whole laundry list. So you flip it. You consciously, deliberately make a list of all the things you can do in English. It could be simple. I can order a coffee. I can introduce myself. I can talk about my hobbies. I can ask what time it is. I can understand the chorus of my favorite pop song.
It doesn't matter how small the items are.
The smaller the better at first, because it shows you that your foundation is much, much bigger than you think. You're not starting from zero. You have this whole toolbox of abilities. When you focus on that, it builds a sense of capability and momentum instead of a sense of lack.
That feels so much more empowering. Okay, so no apologies and a can-do inventory. What else have you got?
Embrace paraphrasing as a superpower, not a weakness.
Interesting. People often feel like if they can't find the perfect word, they've failed.
And they'll just stop. They'll freeze, searching for that one specific word, and the conversation grinds to a halt. But native speakers paraphrase all the time. If I can't think of the word spatula, I'll say, that flat thing you use to flip pancakes.
And the other person knows exactly what you mean.
Instantly. Being able to describe a concept when you don't know the exact noun is not a sign of poor English. It's a sign of excellent communication skills. It shows you're flexible, creative, and resourceful. It's a high-level skill. So, if you don't know a word, don't panic. Just talk around it. Describe it. Use it as a fun challenge.
That completely reframes it. It turns a moment of panic into a creative opportunity. That's brilliant. Any final big picture advice?
The last one is maybe the most important. Lower the stakes. Not every conversation is a final exam. Most of the time, it's just practice. If you're ordering a coffee, the only goal is to walk away with coffee. If you mess up a word, will you still get the coffee?
Yes, 99.9% of the time, yes.
So you succeeded. We put so much pressure on these tiny, everyday interactions. Treat them as what they are, low-risk opportunities to play with the language. The more you have these low-stakes interactions, the more your confidence builds for the high-stakes ones, like a job interview or a big presentation.
It's like building a muscle. You don't start by trying to lift 300 pounds. You start with the 5-pound weights and do lots of reps.
That's the perfect way to think about it. Every small chat is a 5-pound weight. Do 100 of those, and suddenly you'll find that lifting 50 pounds doesn't seem so scary anymore. It's all about accumulating those small, successful reps.
This has been so incredibly insightful, Ethan. It's a complete psychological overhaul of how to approach not just English, but probably any skill you're trying to build.
It really is. It all comes back to being a little kinder to yourself and recognizing that progress, not perfection, is the goal.
So, to wrap everything up, it feels like the core message today is one of radical self-compassion.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. It's about challenging that inner critic with actual evidence and a healthier perspective.
Let's quickly recap those key ideas for everyone listening. First, we have to shatter the fluency illusion. Real, natural communication is messy and imperfect, even for native speakers. Perfection is not the goal.
Right. And second, recognize your invisible progress. Your improvement is happening even if you can't see it day to day. So find ways to document your journey, like recording your voice, so you can look back and see how far you've truly come.
Then we need to redefine success. It's not about flawless grammar, it's about connection. Did your message get across? If yes, that's a win. Celebrate that.
And finally, the practical steps we can take right now. Stop apologizing for your English. Focus on your can-do list, not your deficiencies. Embrace paraphrasing as a superpower, and lower the stakes on everyday conversations.
Ethan, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your own experiences so openly. This has been an incredibly valuable conversation.
The pleasure was all mine, Corey. It's a message I really believe in, and I hope it helps someone out there feel a little more confident today.
I have no doubt that it will. And to everyone listening, thank you for spending your time with us on Just Speak English podcast. We want to turn this into a conversation with you. So here's a little challenge for you based on what we talked about today.
Ooh, I like this.
In the comments section of this podcast or on our social media, we'd love for you to share one small English win you've had recently. It could be anything. Understanding a joke, saying a sentence you were proud of, anything at all. Let's create our own collective win journal.
That's a fantastic idea. Let's flood the comments with positivity.
Exactly. Let's prove just how much better we're all doing than we think. And of course, if you found this conversation helpful, please consider subscribing or following the podcast so you can join us for our next episode. Until then, be kind to yourselves and just speak.